close the PLC early, so it's kind of made me late. So you're welcome to today's class, and then I want to apologize for not posting the link for the agriculture on the platform. Okay, so those who are here, can you say hi? Let me know those who are here who are waiting for me. So today we are going to go straight away to industrialization. I promise you we are going to do that. So we were done with agriculture, and then we are going to try and then start with industrialization today. Okay, industrialization. If I'm speaking too fast, let me know. But those who are here, I want you to say hi so I'll know those who are waiting for me. So our topic is industrialization. We want to find out what industrialization is. Remember, I said that it is not about just listening to the class or watching the class or participating in the class. At the end, it's about how you apply it, right? That's the most important thing. So I am sure I have won some agriculture people, but people who will be farmers for me. But that was my emphasis on last class. So this time we want to go to industrialization. The two of them are so linked. So that is why almost every time we treat agriculture, we add industrialization to it. Okay. So let's see what we mean by industrialization, right? Industrialization, right? It is a policy of the government to create more industries in a country. So when the government decides to create more industries in a country, we know you can call this what? Industrialization, right? And then mostly this is done usually to make sure that the economy doesn't do like one way thing. For instance, they will say that Ghana is noted for being very active in the primary sector. I hope you remember the primary sector of production, right? Where we do the mining, farming, quarrying, and all those things. So if you don't want your country to be known to be a country that is only into the primary sector, you want to add other things to it. Just like people say that this term a variety is the spice of life. So you have to add some variety to it so an economy will be a little safe. If you remember, we did the unemployment, right? We treated this particular type of unemployment that was the structural one, where our skills become obsolete, like they are no more needed. So because our skills are no more needed, we end up like a person ends up become unemployed once that particular job the person knows. If that happens to the only job the person knows, what will happen is that you're going to lose your job, right? So to make sure you are safe, you don't concentrate on one thing, you do variety. So most of you realize that in your classes, either you are doing general art or you are doing business, you see that we attach other subjects to it, so you don't become like one way. Assuming you are only doing literature, when you come out you'll be only literature person. You were only doing maybe economics. That's the only thing you're going to come out having. But once you have a variety, right, it makes you safe. The same thing is what we are talking about now as industrialization. So okay, so I have someone saying hi. Okay, hi Rafa. Hey, the name is very interesting. Hi, yeah. The rest who are here, I want you to say hi to me so that I will know that you are here with me. Okay. Okay, so as I was trying to say, that industrialization as a policy of creating is made by the government, right? That the government wants to create more industries. And sometimes it's not only about creating industries. Sometimes the government will have some existing industries already, but he wants to expand those industries. So because he wants to expand those industries, what he's doing is also what? Industrialization. So it's not only about creating new factories, no. Sometimes the existing ones, for instance, if in Ghana we have the Nkulenu industry, you have the Nkulenu industry, you can decide, okay, we want to expand the Nkulenu industry to do other things or to do more of what you have been doing. That thing can also be termed as what? Industrialization. I hope I am clear. If you understand what I'm saying, please let me know. So you're today as if you're not active in class. I can see you guys online, but I'm not seeing you being active. Okay. So I was saying that the industrialization is not only about creating industries, right? So which means that it's a policy of the government. I want to state the point clearly. Industrialization is a policy of the government to create many industries in the country, right? And this is done to diversify the economy. So I mentioned that the diversification. I mentioned diversification in the sense that the government doesn't, or the country doesn't want to be seen. Yes, Magdalene, hi. Hi, welcome to the club. So the government doesn't want to be seen doing one way thing, like Ghana is only doing production of cocoa, or Ghana no. You want to know that Ghana can do this, can do that, can do so many things. And by that, if one of the, assuming Ghana was into only the primary sector, if the primary sector collapses, the country has collapsed. But if Ghana is into primary sector, which has to do with all the primary activities you know already, and then Ghana is also in the secondary sector, like manufacturing and everything. What it means is that if one side fails, the other one can work. So I apply this to our lives when I was comparing to the unemployment. That as a human being, you cannot be specialized on one thing. At least try and diversify your knowledge. So that is why in schools, even at the tertiary level, the universities, tertiary levels, you see that we don't teach you one thing. You do so many things, so that if one thing doesn't work, the other one can help you. So that is one of the reasons why we do what industrialization. So this is mostly done to diversify. I mean, to give other options for the country to be in. Okay. So and I also said that industrialization is not only about building new industries. Sometimes you also, the government expands the existing ones. So when you expand the existing ones and making sure it produces more or produces other variety of things, then we can call that one also industrialization. Am I clear? Today I see people are overly quiet. I want to know whether I'm clear. Can you hear what I'm saying? Are you understanding what I'm saying? Okay. So we know that industrialization is about setting up a lot of industries in the country. This is done by the government, a policy, right? And then it's all not only about setting up a lot of industries, it's also about expanding the existing industry in the country. Okay. So more or less to produce more, or to be able to produce other variety of things. Okay. Now at this point, let's move to the types of industrialization. So this policy, you can decide to say that, okay, I want to undertake a particular type of industrialization. So you must know what are the types of industrialization that we have. So as a country, you weigh yourself and see, I want to start industries for this purpose or for that purpose. Or is it because you just want to set up, because countries, you have heard that the developed countries, in the US, the UK, Germany and co, are having industries. So that's why you also have to have industries. You must have the industry for a purpose. So we want to find out the types of industrialization that if you want to undertake as a country, you can choose any of them, or you can choose to do all of them depending on your resources. Okay. So the first type I want to give you is cottage industry. Cottage as in COTTAGE. Cottage industry. What do we mean by cottage industry? When you hear cottage, I remember those times you say that, where do I mean? I live in a cottage. Cottage means like something like it's small. I hope you're getting it. So as the word suggests, cottage industry, these are very small industries which are normally set up by households. So it's not only government that can set up industries. So the households, I mean, our families can also set up industry. And these industries are normally set up sometimes at the corner of our home somewhere, or on the farm. Okay. And you want to find out what kind of things do we do treat in these industries. So if you hear this, you'll be surprised. You know, if you're into one of them, you also know that you should have an industry. Okay, it's not about only the big machines. Hello, Angela, I can see you. Okay. So it's not only about the big industries, like you see big machines before you say that you have an industry. So let's see some of the cottage industries, right, that we have. So cottage industry as a type of industry, cottage industry, it's an industry that is normally set up by household. So our home, or me myself, like an individual, or my family can decide to do a small industry. Most people don't see it as an industry. They see it as, oh, it's something that someone is doing, but we call it industry. So let me give you one example of the cottage industry. But even if you know, you can type it for me to see. Okay. So what are some of the examples that the cottage industry, and we can call cottage industry? For instance, if you do palm oil, are you surprised? So if your grandmother is a grandmother or grand auntie or mommy does palm oil, like you grind, for the beginning, you pound your palm nuts and do all those things, and at the end, you use it to produce palm oil. That's an industry. So if you don't know, you can tell your grandma, your aunties that are doing those things, and tell them that, hey, that is an industry they are into. Okay, so it's not the big machine ones. So if they are doing extraction of palm oil, we call it an industry. If you are traveling on most of you when you are going home, those who live at Accra or at the other regions, when you are going home, you see people carving wood or making pots, right? If those who do a pot, they make pots, some of them will be selling it, and then some of them will be carving wood. They carve wood and will design it to so many things they want to use it for. That is called an industry. So if you see those who carve this one, how many of you eat fufu? Those who eat fufu, let me know. All those who eat fufu, I want to see by hand those who eat fufu. So if you eat fufu, you see that the mortar was carved, the pestle was carved. That is an industry's work. So that person, the carving of your mortar and pestle is an industry. So the one who is doing it also has an industry. He doesn't know. He thinks that doing the big people, just because he doesn't wear a suit to the workplace to show that he's going to work, he sees it that, oh, it's nothing. Those who, how do we call it, weave baskets. So in the villages, okay, so Christabel, hi. Now welcome to the class. So those who weave, you see those who weave, what's the name? Um, Kente. Have you seen those who weave Kente? That's the industry. So that's a cottage industry. Yes, it's very small industry. So we call it cottage industry. So we tell them that that is their industry. They think that the government will establish industries. Tell them that what you are doing is also an industry. Okay. Those who, how many of you parents do what's the name? They use the palm tree to do palm wine, and then they use it to do the hard local gin akpeteshi. They brew it. Normally in my village, they go to the farm somewhere, right? You see that the people cut the palm tree that has grown very well, and they take the palm, what's the name of that thing called again? Oh, the the name of that palm, what's the name? The name is not Camilla. Palm wine. They take the palm wine and then turn it into local gin. We call it akpeteshi. Okay, those who know that hard one, when you drink it now, that one. So we do with that thing they are doing is what? An industry. So you can also see if you go to a village or wherever you are, and then you help your parents or your grandparents go and visit them for the vacation. And then they are doing gari. And you help them, you go and ground the cassava, you do it, and then they fry the gari. That processing of gari, processing of gari is an industry. So you can see that we have a lot of industries in Ghana, a lot of them like the cottage ones. So those ones are a type of industrialization, right? And that one is, how do we call it? It's a cottage one, which also means that it is an industry. Okay. So once we have the cottage industries, and then after the cottage industry, we are building up. Now you can see that most of the cottage industry they use simple tools. It's not any hard, sophisticated tool like the big machines we see. Now the next one, aside the cottage industry, is light industry. Light as in LIGHT. Light industry. Light, but this light I mean is not the one the bulb you put on off. This light is like, we have cottage. Cottage is very small. Light is like, it's not heavy, it's light and that kind of thing. So this light industry, they are those who manufacture things that we use in our homes, like very simple things we use in our homes and we consume directly. So light industry, they are industry that they use simple processes to manufacture things, products for us. And for instance, if you see that someone is doing those how do you call it, snacks, the person bakes those biscuits, this industry. right? But this form is light because the machine the person uses only an oven and something. So that type of industrialization, we call it light industry, okay? And then those who do bottle drinks, even our sobolo we do bottle it. And see some people, even all this sobolo, we do what's the name? Burkina, and then those drinks that we do, right? If we do those drinks and we bottle them, some people label it. Those who normally buy it on the street, you see how they will do them, they will label it nicely. That is also an industry, and it is known as what? A light industry, right? Those who manufacture our pure water rubbers, our banku rubbers. How many of you buy when you cook banku? You know you roll them in a rubber and tie that rubber, or you go and buy your food, you see that they give you take away those things. So those take away packs and all those things are done in the light industry. So they form part of light industry. What we mean by light industry, as I said, is that the industry that use simple processes, manufacturing processes, to produce lightweight products. Lightweight, they are not so heavy things, and consumables that are used in the household or by the households. Okay, so they are simple industries. They are simple industries, or industries that use simple processes to produce goods that are used by the households. And most of the things they produce are consumable goods. So light industries produce consumable goods. They don't produce how do you call it, capital goods. Most of the goods they produce are consumer goods. Okay, Gloria is saying hi. Gloria, hi. Welcome to today's class. Okay, so as that said, we want to know that some this light industry, I mentioned some example, right? So plastic bottles. When you go and buy those bottles that you use for drinks in the house, you use to package your drinks in the house. Those small things, right? Plastic buckets, plastic. Those things, those industry that they are part of light industries, right? Don't use heavy machines. They are part of light industries. Okay. So we want to see this. One thing that is notable about them is that the value, right? Their cost of production, the cost that they incur, most of them is incurred on the raw materials. Okay, you know, when you use, for instance, um, when you are producing, maybe it's probably so good. My son might also say I like making sobolo. Those one I'm saying sobolo is a bisap drink, okay? Bisap drink, so that everybody can understand. When you're producing bisap drink, you see that most of your money, the cost you are incurring, is on raw materials. You are buying your bisap leaf, your sugar, your ginger, your all those things. So we say that light industries are characterized by high ratio of raw material to total value of products. These ones are objective questions. That's what I'm stating there. It is characterized by a high ratio of raw materials to total value of products. So I want to explain that statement of characterized by a high ratio of raw materials. What it means is that most of the costs incur, right? Most of the things that they are spending their money on is on raw materials, because almost everything they do is raw material. The machines they are using are very simple. The cost of the machines will not be expensive, right? For instance, someone who is doing maybe a bottle drink. If you are doing bottle drink like a bisap, yeah, all you need is your bottle and everything. The machines you probably use with your hot pot, something, and then your pot and then your spoon and the packaging, whatever thing is. So most of the things money they spend is on raw materials. So please note this for objective purposes, that it is characterized by a high ratio of raw materials to total value of products. It is characterized by a high ratio of raw materials to total value of products. Don't worry, after the class, please, some of you should remind me on the platform. I forgot to send you the slide agriculture. So right after today's class, please, if you don't see it, please send a message. Madam, I have not sent it again because I planned sending it and then for whatever reason I forgot. So please forgive me and then remind me to put it on the platform. Okay, thank you for understanding. So this is light industry. The first one we did is cottage industry. The second one we have made them is what? Light industry. So when you see people baking bread, and so this hot oven is a light industry. They bake bread, they bake what? Spring rolls. What else? They fry or bake they fry or bake spring roll or something like that. So they what again they fry? So that thing I like chewing a lot, like samosa. So they they also do those things. So any bakery or whatever you can think of is a form of what? Light industry. The reason being that they don't use heavy machines. Okay. And most of the things they produce are consumable things. So it means any of us can also set up our industry. Depending on which one you want. You want the cottage industry, or you want to set up a light industry. So we shouldn't be saying that, hey, yeah, for industry, yeah, it's a big time thing. No, it's only those who have big money. No. The little you have, you can decide that the little you have, you can set up a cottage industry or a light industry. The one that you can really complain about that is higher, this thing is the third one we're about to see. So the third type of industry we'll talk about is the heavy industries. Heavy, you yourself, you know how the name sounds, heavy industry. Heavy means it's really heavy. What it means is that these are industries that use complex processes to produce heavy and bulky goods. These are industries. You know, all the cottage one, they don't use properly machine. They are knife, cutlass, they are done. But the light one, they use simple tools. Okay. But the heavy industry, they use their processes are very complex. So sometimes you don't really understand it. It's like you think it's a mystery behind what they've done. So they use complex processes to produce heavy and bulky goods. For example, if you see aluminium smelting, where they do aluminium, like I don't know how they even do it. Either they melt, either it's an iron they melt to aluminium they melt to the thing will become some way. Then you can out of that they have the aluminium sheets coming out. And people can use aluminium sheets to do so many things. Iron you can use for roofing sheets, for bowls, for pans and everything. So let me see someone's question. Say, what about fast foods? Are they part of the light industries? Oh, okay. What do you think? I want you to know to tell me. What do you think? So, but to my people, someone is asking, what about fast food? Can they be also light industry? With me, with my answer. But I want to see what the others think. So, what do you guys think? So, I'm giving you 2 minutes as I'm still teaching you. Tell me what do you think? People are cooking fast food to sell, right? Let me know whether it is cottage or light industry. Please let me know quickly. So I want everybody to participate and write the answer. So in 2 minutes time I will answer. Chris also in 2 minutes time I will answer to see what I want to see what others also say. Okay. So the heavy one, for instance, the production of iron. Like me, I see there's a mystery. You know, the last time I was sitting and I was thinking of how phones are produced. Those it's like you think it's a mystery, it's complex. The process is not as simple for you to understand. It's a complex process. So you see that it is not an easy thing to do, and they use heavy machines. See, for instance, the production of cars. Like ask yourself, how is the wheel produced? Yes. Now I feel the copy that carry my water. Sorry, I'm talking to. Okay, so if you see that how cars are produced, it's like there's a mystery behind it. How are they able to add things? So any process or anything that you see that no, this one is a complex way of producing it, and they will use heavy machines. Automatically, those industries that produce those things fall under what? Heavy industries. Okay, since no one wants to answer Christabel's case, Christabel, I think the fast food will be part of cottage industry. Okay, so it's like just producing gari or those things. Instead of producing gari, you have to produce food. So you are mixing up so many types of foods and then you are selling. So I think that it should fall under the cottage industry, done by the households. So you can decide to do fast food and put it and then sell. That's your industry, okay? So that industry should be a cottage industry, okay? If it produces what maybe probably they are trying to produce, you use maybe your knife, your this thing, and then so just like producing dairy for you to eat, and then those things. It's as simple as that. So the very, very simple one that we do in the households or by the households, those are what light in light. So your answer is that it should rather be cottage industry, in my opinion. But if I have any other opinion, you let me know. So in my opinion, it is light. Sorry, thank you. In my opinion, it is cottage. See, someone is coming to tell me kinky. The thing is, I'm beginning to smell that it's kinky already. So, so it is cottage industry. So, Chris, I hope I've answered you. So it is cottage industry, okay? So, the light one was characterized by a high ratio of raw materials. So most of their monies are spent on raw materials. But the heavy industries, what do you think it will be? So it is characterized by a low ratio of raw material to total value of products. What this means is that most of the amounts they spend in production is not spent on the raw materials. It's rather spent on what? Their capital goods. For instance, their machines. So I think on the slide I'm going to give you, I've posted some heavy industry, like image of heavy industry for you to see. So you see that the machines alone, the cost of the machines alone, is far greater than the cost of the raw material they are using. So in that case, for objective sake, this is characterized by low ratio of raw materials to total value of products. Unlike the light industry, thank you. Unlike the light industry, which is characterized by a high ratio of raw material to total value of products, it means that the light industry, they use most of their monies to buy most of their cost is spent on the raw material, buying the raw materials. The same also for the cottage one, because the cottage one, most of the things they spend money on their raw materials, okay? Then, but that of the heavy industries, most of their costs are spent on their machines, their capital goods, okay? I mean the machines that they are using. So the ratio of the raw materials to the total value of the product is very low, because they use only few cost on little cost on raw materials, but most of their cost is spent on their machines and then their tools they use. Okay. So that being said, we can summarize the type of industrialization or type of industries as 1, cottage industry, 2, light industry, and 3, heavy industry. I'm not sure you forget. This one is very simple. So the way I'm saying it, you can see that from the lower to the highest one. The first one is cottage industry. The second one is light. Cottage means that in your house, even in your kitchen, you can do cottage industry. So someone can try to use their kitchen for cooking. I say cooking for pressing gari, or for doing, someone say fried rice and sell, for all those things. That's your industry. But that one is a cottage one because it is done within your home or probably even on a farm. Okay. The light one is the ones that they produce, use simple machines to produce goods that we consume in the homes, and most of the things they produce are consumables. And I mentioned them as what some of the examples I mentioned as was. I want you to be active, to be as if people are just watching me and you're not answering or you are not following. If I'm talking too fast, please let me know, okay, so I can slow down. Maybe hunger is also part, and people are tempting me with food. So what do I do? So I'll try and speak slowly if I'm going too fast. Okay. So those who produce biscuits, who bake how do we call it? Bread, who do bottled drinks, etc. They are part of the lights industry. So if you know any example of lights industry in Ghana, you can text it for me to know. Okay. Right. So let's have from the type of industry you have mentioned: cottage, light, and heavy. We now want to, so if you are a country or you live in a country, in Ghana, right, you want to set up an industry, you can ask yourself, which type of industry do I want to set up? Is it a light industry? But once you are thinking of this, you have to make sure that you keep in mind your ratio of the raw materials to the total value of the good. What it means is that if you know that you're going to spend a lot of money on a capital good, your machines and everything, that should be telling you something that you need more money, okay? But considering your plan, maybe some of you be having plans that once I finish school, you want to set up, which the prayer I'm praying for everyone. When you finish school, you want to set up your own companies and everything, or your own industries. You can just find out which type of industry you can I set up. Is it cottage industry? So when your friends ask you, hey, I have my industry, what industry do you have? They say, my industry we produce, we package gari. That's an industry. Or my industry we do this, we produce that. So you should know that the one you are doing, is it a light industry, or is a cottage industry? So a cottage industry is the first one, or a light industry, or a heavy industry. With the heavy one, because those one use complex machines. If you want to go into that, it means that you have to plan very well, get your capital, and make sure whatever you are going to produce should be able to pay for your machines, and then for raw material at the same time, and give you a profit. At all, your main aim is to do what? Is to get what? Profits. I hope I am clear. So those are the types of industries anyone can set up in a country, or a country can decide to set up. Okay. Now let's see some of the strategies. If you want to set up an industry, what's your strategy like? You should have a plan, strategy. What is the industry? What is it meant for? Is it only meant for um, consuming at home? Is it meant for how do you call it? Selling to other industry, whatever it is. So you want to find some of the strategies that you should consider when you want to set up an industry. Okay. So after this, I'll make a point that I refer you to a point I made in agriculture, right? So one of the strategies you can consider is that you want to be in the processing of raw materials for export. So a country can say that, okay, a country or the people in the country can say, or anyone who wants to go into industrialization, okay, you can say that, okay, I want to set up my industry, but this strategy, my focus could be to process raw materials for export. So we have the one, processing of raw materials for export. The country can say that, okay, all the raw materials I have, I want to process them to send them for export. The second one, I will take them one by one and I explain. Okay, if it's getting too heavy, we will cut it at a particular point, and then you continue later. So the first one, one strategy is processing of raw material for exports. The second one, export-led industry. Your focus is that whatever you are going to produce is for export. The third one is import substitution. So we pick them one by one. Processing of raw material for export. Number two, export-led industry. Number three, import substitution industries. Okay, so let's pick the first one, processing of raw materials for export. So you'll be asking yourself, whatever I'm going into, whether it's cottage, light, or heavy industry, what is my main aim? If it's a country, your focus is maybe to export, which is our advice everybody's aim to be. Remember, I mentioned something in agriculture, and I said that the government has put this strategy in place. That is, if anyone who remembers, should type it for me to see. That if the government is doing that, backed by, I will not mention it, so I want you to mention it yourself, so I will know that you are following the notes. Backed by the ministry, so championed more or less by the Ministry of Trade and Agriculture, that we want to make sure that we I'm tempted to mention the answer. So we want to make sure that we promote export promotion policy. I've mentioned, I didn't want to mention. So we promote even the things that are not the how do you call it, the normal one we use, and we know that we export. So now that you can export yam, you can export fish, and the government is helping people to do it. And I told you to take advantage of that. I remember I told you those things, right? So in this case, you can decide to say, okay, I want to transfer raw materials into other things. And once you know this, just aim at taking advantage of that opportunity that the government is doing, has done. Okay, so it is there. Once you tell yourself that I want to go into processing raw material, so you can, if you take your gari and then processing your cassava and processing it to gari, that's the processing of raw material, right? It gives you gari. Is it going to be for exports? So for this reason, we are saying that our focus here is to process of raw material for exports. As for that, the highest thing you can earn more. If you are producing things and want to sell it within the country, that's also fine. But we have what we call processing of raw materials for export, and most governments like doing that. For instance, Ghana, we take our cocoa beans, we turn them into cocoa powder, we turn them into our Ghanaian nice beautiful sweet chocolate, and then at the end we export it. So what we are, that kind of thing that the cocoa board is championing, right, is known as, that strategy or that plan is processing of raw materials for export. And nowadays, I've been watching those things they do. People, when you're watching, they watch news, watch business news. I've told you, right? They do these things. They show those fair that it's not only those trade fairs. Sometimes some of them are organized by some of the TV stations or radio stations and other people. And what they do is people will show their products. Some people will take are able to take normal food and they turn it and say that this is organic food, and they package it and they do it, and then it's purposely for, if they are trying to get attention for other people to know that those goods exist. Oh, please tell those who are texting me right now on the platform that please they shouldn't text me right now to worry my this thing, my network, okay? So tell them that they shouldn't text me on the platform right now. Okay, thank you. So we can process things and then for export. For instance, we take our I mentioned the cocoa already, and then sometimes we can take timber. We go to the bush, people go to the bush, cut the trees, turn them into timber, our plywood, those wood, and then we export them. Exportation, don't think that when I say export, it doesn't mean that always carrying things to the US and UK. No, we can take them to Nigeria, to Togo. For instance, the last time I checked, Casapreco, right? No, they are into no, they are not only into the alcoholic drinks, they are also into the those fruit juice, right? Like the apple juice and all those things. They also export, so they transform their raw materials, right? If the apple juice, if it is, they use our local leaves, whatever it is, other roots or whatever, and use them into bitters. They do our local gin, and they do it, and then they don't only keep it in Ghana, they process the raw materials, turn them into the goods they are doing, and then they export. So some of their products are in Togo, Nigeria, Cameroon, Benin. When I found out, I was so surprised. That's Ghana industry, right? The Ghanaian industry. So you can process those things into our raw materials for what? Export. So don't think that you don't have money to do, because I probably buy. The last time they were saying they were giving them, I think Parliament, that was the last government. They said Parliament gave them some free tax, and it was almost in I think almost $500 or $600 million as no free tax. They shouldn't pay tax. Just because they are supposed to go import some machine. You can imagine the volume of the machine. It doesn't mean you should get into that. You can just do the simple one that I told you in agriculture. Where we have the export and export promotion policy that the government has. You can just take your simple. Some of you are good at cooking or good at doing things, so you just imagine, okay, if I add my gari, I'm not saying go and do what's the name of that gari, kivo gari, no, maybe you add a gari plus or this plus or that, you mix it together, you can get a particular combination that may be nicer than kivo gari. And then when you do that one, you want to export it, you are processing your material for exportation. Very simple. So it's not something complex that you cannot do, right? A country can do it, and you as an individual can also do the same. So that is one strategy of what's the name again? One strategy of industrialization. You can choose processing raw materials for export. Let's see the next. How do we call this? Remember, when you're processing raw material, you can turn them into finished goods or what? Semi-finished goods or products. Okay. So let's see the next strategy. As the second one, I said what? Exports-led industry. At this point, if you have any questions, please type it, your question for me to see, and then we will answer it. Okay. Today, I see people are a little quiet too. If you are little, people are a little quiet, so please, I want to hear that you are there. Okay. So let's see. We have the exports-led, as the name suggests, exports-led industries, right? Their main aim is to what? Produce in their industries who manufacture goods for exports. The only thing they do, for the how do you call it, the production of raw materials, you can do that one for export. And even those with the home local home, for instance, like the kibu gari, we do that production of raw materials and we enjoy some here, right? And then we export some. Aside that too, how do you call it, most of the spices that we do, the how do you call it, those small spices we do most of them and then consume them. The one that they package nicely, those ones consume them here and then we export some. So that can also be part of the production of raw materials, okay, for exports. But when it comes to the export led, what it means is that everything they are producing, their main aim is to export it. It's not for people to Ghana to enjoy. If you happen to get them to buy some to enjoy, fine. But their main aim for the export led industry, which is the strategy 2. One is what? Production of raw materials. Strategy 2 is export led industry. Their main aim is to produce goods for exports. And that's to get what? Foreign exchange. So these, for instance, these companies are, for instance, let's say those who produce cloth, maybe GTP, 80. Do you still have 80? Those things are still vanishing from the system. The steel industry, those things, they are producing because you can enjoy some, but their main focus is that they want to produce and export to neighboring countries who don't have that. For instance, Togo, if Nigeria doesn't have some of those things, and we have the advantage of having, we produce them and sell them. For instance, we know that this Dangote cement comes from Nigeria. So he produces in Nigeria and sends it to Ghana, into Togo, to other countries. So that's an example of an export-led industry. Their focus is that we want to produce the goods and export them. Okay. It doesn't mean that also still you cannot get some in Ghana to in your local country to consume. But their main aim, focus is that the goods you are producing are for what? Exports. So I mentioned some of those examples like the cements, the clothes, textiles, the steel industry, etc., etc. And then what I said is that the main aim is to make sure that if the government is going into this, if the government decides to go into this kind of industrialization, he may want to do it purposely for the outside markets, not Ghana. So as sometimes you know these big things. Some people also do like produce because of the export promotion policy by the government did. Some people also produce maybe pineapple purposely only for exports, not for Ghana. They produce yam purposely and only for exports. They can produce what's the name? Fish, to be tilapia, whatever, and their focus is that this we are doing, we finish package it is going out of the country. It's not for Ghana. So the government can go into that. Individuals can also go into that. So whatever you are producing, for instance, if you are doing your own exam, you have your customers or you are able to get customers from other countries who come and buy it. Your main aim is to export it. Then we call it export-led industry. But as I told you from the beginning, industrialization is a government policy. So if the government is doing export-led industry, it means that the government, one of the aim of doing the export-led is to make sure they get a lot of foreign exchange. The foreign exchange, because we need that the dollar, the CFA, the naira, the I mentioned the years and all those things. Is it shekels or what money does the Israeli people spend? That people should tell me what money they spend in China, in Israel. What currency do they spend? I want to know. People should tell me. So if you want those their money, right? You have to export your goods to those countries and then you get their money. When you get their money, those things really help. You see later on why we need those currencies. We really need them. They are very important to every economy. So every naira, every dollar, every CFA is important to Ghana. Okay. Now let's see the next one with the government or any individual can go into, which is the other strategy is the import substitution industries. What do we mean by import substitution industry? Import substitution, that should give you a clue. Import substitution. It means that these kind of industry are established using our local raw materials. Like we don't want to use foreign raw material. He wants to use the local raw material to produce goods that were formerly imported. So instead of us to go and import toothpick, to go and import matches, to go and import chicken, fowl, chicken, yes. The fowl is a live one, right? When they kill it, it's ground chicken, I'm sure. So import chicken, we import what? Oh, pads, and then almost everything we import. The government can set up industry that will use our local raw material. For instance, one toothpick, I'm sure bamboo stick should do for the toothpick. So government is very quick. They're going to use things made that in Ghana. So they will say I'm made in Ghana. You go and buy those things, bamboo or those sticks in Ghana, and use it to make the toothpick. So each of us importing toothpick, we say no, Ghana is producing our own toothpick. You know, it was during the COVID-19 that I never knew that Ghana can produce things. During COVID-19, I realized that instead of us importing our nose masks and then sanitizer, we started having a lot of locally produced sanitizers, right? Most of you would have seen the tabia sanitizer. That's what I remember anyway. And then other ones that were produced in Ghana. We use our local raw materials, right? We also produce the nose masks. Formerly we were importing them. The people were not trusting that. What if the one imported, they put COVID-19 inside and then we are all wearing? So in that case, Ghana tried and produced locally our own nose masks. The ones you normally buy, most of them are made in Ghana, right? So that tells you that by we use most of the raw materials made from Ghana. So anytime the government decides that we're going to produce the things that we normally would have imported, we want to produce them in Ghana here. So the money stays here in Ghana. We call that strategy import substitution industries. So these industries are meant to produce things that we would have normally imported, but now because we don't want to import them again, we want to produce them in Ghana, right? So that is what we mean by, and those things save us a lot of foreign exchange, because instead of using your little dollars you have as a country, which is very important, a little safer naira, then you carry it and go to other countries and go and give it to them. You know, you have to pay for the exchange rate to give it to them, because now we don't import those things anymore. Those huge money stay in Ghana for our companies in Ghana to get it. Obviously you will see somewhere the importance of industrialization. Okay, so that is what we mean by import substitution industry. They produce things that we formerly were importing, but now we produce them in our country. It is Ghana, in our country, Ghana. So let's quick recap the strategies of industrialization I spoke about. Processing of raw materials for exports. Then we have the export-led industries. Then we have the import substitution industries. Can you stay there for me to see whether you are following? Processing of raw materials for exports, export-led industry, and the import substitution industry. Those are the three strategies that we can use in industrialization as a country or as individual when if you want to also take part or be part of it. So these are the strategies. Now let's quickly see the importance of industrialization and then some of the problems we face and the solutions. Then the next time we will go to indigenization, commercialization, those things that people were typing for me. I can see that people cannot wait to get there. And remember, they come a lot in your past questions too. So when we end this one, the slide, I'm going to add some past questions to it. Okay. So let's see what are some of the importance. I want to be active. So yes, tell me, state the importance. Some of the importance are they are, how do you call it? They are almost like the agriculture one. So I may not have to be explaining everything. I hope that is fine. Is that fine? If that's fine, let me know. Okay. So some of the importance of industrialization. Why would the government want the country to industrialize, to expand industries? Why would you think the government do that? One of the reasons or importance of this is that it creates revenue for the government. I hope that is true. If you are an industry, and then definitely you have to pay tax in the country. You have to pay tax. The only people I know that who don't normally run away from the tax, the Gary, those people get Gary in our villages. And those the cottage ones, they are able to somehow avoid tax, right? Because where they are in the village, you just put Babi, you do your apprenticeship in your farm, you bring it to the house. The local women will come for it and take it to the market. You didn't pay any tax. But the government goes into those type of industries, it's able to generate revenue, because that's why maybe the government business, the government to get revenue, or the industries themselves pay tax to the government, and that becomes revenue to the government. Okay, sorry. Aside that too, we get employment. So the more industries you have, it means that most of you who compete and want to, whether you don't want to do your business or set up your own industry, and you want to go and look for a job, you get job to do, because the more industries we have, the more jobs will be available to do. So we have a creation of employment, okay, as number two. Number three, we also have increasing of foreign exchange. We produce the goods and we export them. We're able to get a lot of foreign exchange, okay, I mean foreign currency. Also, it helps us to diversify the economy. I said at the beginning that when I doing this industrialization, it helps the country not to be focused on only one way country. So if one side is not doing well, the other side can be doing well. So it helps us to diversify the economy, whether we are into primary or we are into manufacturing. If the primary sector is not doing well, the manufacturing sector, which is where the industrialization is found, can also be doing better. So you can see that the country will be balanced. It should not be one way. Okay. Then aside that too, it also helps to conserve, save. The first one is for us to increase, get more foreign exchange by exporting things. But for instance, with the import substitution one, that one, because you don't take money to go and buy raw materials, you don't take money to go and import those things, you create, or you manufacture those goods in the country, you're able to save or conserve the foreign exchange. Any foreign exchange you have is saved in the country, it doesn't go out, because you are no more importing those things, you are doing them right here in Ghana. Okay. And also it contributes to national income. National income is a topic by itself that I know that we are going to say it's a huge topic, interesting one by itself. So if you get there, I'll explain to you what exactly mean by national income. By in simple terms, everything that Ghana produces, right? If you put it into monetary term or whatever it is, we get our national income, right? So when you add up everything Ghana produces, it becomes, oh, this is our national income. Just like an individual, I went to work at the end, I collected my salary, this is my income. The government also have, the country also have an income, and that income will come from all the things the country does. The Ghana is into farming, it's into mining, it's into this, it's into manufacturing. So you see, manufacturing we mentioned because we have industries. So all those things come together to be part of our national income. So the higher national income is, it tells you that the country is highly developing or developed. It means you can develop because you have more money to develop. So that tells you that if you have industry, it also contributes to our national income. So these are few importance or advantages of industrialization. Let's take the problems, and then we can call it a day. So if you want to come in, why is it that with these nice things we enjoy, why is it that we don't have a lot of industries in West Africa, and for that matter in Ghana, right? You can see that with all this, especially with the heavy industries, we need huge capital. We don't have capital. So if you don't have capital, enough capital, it means that you cannot have the most of the industries you'll be having in cottage and then light industry. And those ones don't generate much like the heavy industries. The heavy, as it needs heavy capital, it also generates heavy for us. So we have inadequate capital. We don't have enough capital. Also, one of the problems is that we lack the technical skills. If they ask you, for instance, people will be boasting that, oh, if you go to the US, UK, and those, they are manufacturing their own cars, do you know how to manufacture it? That's the question. You ask yourself, have you been taught? So I'm not saying teachers don't do our job, but the fact is that they've been taught how to do basic things at their junior, at their lesson level, right? So for instance, you see these phones you manufacture. Can't do those things in Ghana, but we don't even know how to produce them, like laptops, cars, and all those things. Except I heard of this man, Mr. Kantanka, who is also producing cars in the country, you can see that most people in the country, you don't know how to produce, you don't know how that skill to produce the things they are producing. Because if you have the skill, this common AI app that come, everybody is posting apps for you to get and then use. The ones that are made in Ghana, you can see that they are few because people don't have the technical skills. Okay, so that's a problem that we have in West Africa. When we don't have the technical skills, unless the person goes outside the country to go and learn those things, which will be expensive for your part. So once you don't have that thing easy, those skills easy to learn in the country, you don't have the skills for people who want to set up industries in the country. You get it? Okay. Also, we have poor infrastructure. You have this, can you imagine you have industry that wants to use, that use lights, a heavy industry. Then do so, they'll do the light to be on, light to be off. It will spoil your machines for you. If you are someone who have that dream, you say that you don't come to Ghana and waste your machines or money in Ghana because you don't have stable lights, right? Or sometimes you produce your goods and the roads are terrible. When you want to site, I hope you remember that thing. Location and localization of industries, right? When you want to locate your industry or site your industry, you see that that place that could be good for you for a particular reason. You remember that thing, some of the reasons why we set it there. And you see that, oh, even that place would have been best for you to help you to get your profit, but the road there is terrible. There's no lights there, there's no hospital there. So if you send workers there, how will they survive there? Are you going to build houses for them to stay there? So poor infrastructure becomes a problem, right? When the government or people want to go into industrialization in West Africa. Also, the problem of competition. So you can imagine that you struggle in Ghana and produce something nice and take it outside the country. That's why people say that we have a lot of Chinese products. Ghanaians will do kente. We do a normal nice kente, very quality and nice. You go and bring China kente. You know now most people like buying the China kente because that one is not proper. But when you wear it, they will think you're also wearing kente, but it's far cheaper. So when you get to the market and people you are selling kente and the other one 300 400 cities just to get to one a piece 6 yards of kente. You need 3 yards or 6 yards of kente, and then you can get you can get 100 cities or 200 cities to get a huge maybe 2 different pieces of kente. Which one will you buy? You see how people go and buy the cheaper ones, and the competition becomes tough for the local people because if you try to produce something and then other countries who have the advantage, who have the machines, who have the technical skills, are able to produce their own and then they are not buying your own, it discourages you from doing what, from setting up industries. And most goods that come from West Africa, when you struggle hard and do it, you see that sometimes it doesn't meet the quality you want. So other ones come and compete with you. That's why you realize that most people don't like buying the sandals, those the Kumasi sandals that we wear. You wear it 1, 2, 3, then it's torn. But if you spend money and buy the one that they sell 100, 200 cities, you wear it from this thing, Form 1 to Form 3, to not small. So you see, so if someone goes to the market and sees those things, you see the competition is that is between the most quality and the other one. The other one that is Ghana made, they are trying small. People are not buying, but they rather buying the foreign ones. So the problem of competition is a serious problem that worries our industries. Okay, so that is also one problem. And then the other one I mentioned when I was explaining the competition was that there's low quality of exported goods. The last time they have to caution the news, TV3 News, they were saying that the fish we are exporting, that they are warning Ghanaians that we are not doing the right way. They are, with these galamsey things, we are sensing lead. That was even today. One of the TV channels I follow, the channel, the WhatsApp channel. You can look for it and follow. They made a comment that our cassava and yam that comes from the place that they do the mining areas are having a high level of lead. That means it's polluted. So you go and have a farm there or something, you want to export your goods, and they check that your goods having lead. Automatically your good is rejected. It's not safe for consumption. You see. So for that reason, you will see that most of our goods we produce, if you take Ghana sandal, you want to export it and you get it to the border or something, you see other sandals. Why? You look at the value. Nah. Ours mostly is low. You see. So the low quality of goods that we produce is also a problem. Not because we want to produce low quality, it's because the capital for producing the high quality is not there. You see, so that's also a challenge. And then most markets, and also one of the challenges that most markets in the developed countries are protected. For instance, if you, I want to be watching sometimes Al Jazeera news or the foreign news, right? They said that the US is saying that he was placing 10% of tax on goods that are coming from other countries. I think Ghana was even mentioning part of it. That are now, so if you want to export things into that country, you pay 10% tax. Hey, you know why they are doing that? It's making sure that if you are going to pay 10% to take things there, you won't say anything again. So what they are doing is to protect their market so that people will not be sending things to their country for sale. So most of the developed countries have protected their countries. So if you are from any West African country that needs some dollars and you want to send things to US, UK, and all those things, the rules that are there are too tough and you may not be able to meet. At the end, you see that the industrialization you want to do, the industry you want to set up, you are discouraged. You don't want to do it again. So I don't want us to talk on. We are past an hour now. From the point I've stated, I want you, but the solutions are in the slides. I want you to say the solutions yourself. Since today you don't want to be talking much, the solutions are there for you. Or if not, I can quickly mention a solution that will be in the class one end. Okay. So if you don't have infrastructure, what will you have to do? You have to provide infrastructure. If you are producing low quality goods, the solution is to do what? To produce high quality goods, right? If you normally, how do you call it, don't have enough money or loans or capital, then the government should do establish more banks or establish more avenues where people can access loan. Not only accessing loan, but the loan interest rate should be low. Okay. And also the government, just like other countries are protecting their countries with don't want to bring things to their country, we should also protect our own by saying that before you bring things to Ghana, you must pay 10% or 20% tax. So you won't bring your things. People will not have will not be able to bring things to the country. We rather be left consuming the things that are produced in our country. Hope we are saying. So if you're an industry in Ghana, you are, people will buy our things because those they are coming from foreign countries. You are producing a Ghana made one. Okay. So you don't have a choice than to more or less buy our own. So these are few solutions I can give. So today, in summary, we did what is industrialization, that it is setting up, it's a policy by the government to set up an industry or to expand the existing ones in the country. And we also saw the type of industry that we have cottage, we have light, and we have heavy. And we saw some of the strategies of industrialization that we have what? Export, we have, how do you call it? The processing of raw materials for export led, and then we have the import substitution industry. And then also we saw that it is important to have industrialization, that no matter how important it is, we also have challenges, but once we address those challenges, we are able to have our industries, which were the solutions that I went through. So in the absence of any question, is there any question you want to ask? Okay, so if there are no questions, then we will call it a day. The next time we meet, that's God willing, next week at 12 o'clock, same time, God willing. We're going to go into indigenization, commercialization, privatization, those things that you are eager to know. Okay, remember all these things are in past questions. You must know them, you must learn them. So please take them serious. If you have a challenge and you don't get some point I'm talking about, or I am too fast, just get a time and replay. I've left the links are still on the platform, okay, and the classes are still on the channel. I've not deleted them, so we can just replay them and try to understand, okay. But if you have any questions to, even after the class, you can post it for me to answer either on the platform or under any of the videos. That'll be fine with me. So at this point, I'm not seeing any new questions again. So let me acknowledge those who said hi. Since people don't want to say hi to me. Magdalene said hi. Angela said hi. Christabel, Gloria. Someone told me Gloria. Someone told me she was using the Gloria. Yeah, I forgot it again. Christabel, and then those who said hi. So I want to say hi to all those who have refused to say hi to me today. I don't know what I've done today. So please, if there are no questions, then we can call today's class. You can meet today's class one and then we meet God willing next week to continue with the industrialization. It's a very broad topic. But our prayer is that we should complete it. We complete it before we get back to school. Okay, that will help us a lot. So if there are no, in the absence of any question, then we can call it a quit, and then I'll see you God willing in the next class. That could be next week, same time. Okay. So thank you for all those who were active in class today, and I hope next week that they should be more active. I'll see you all, and I'll forward the agriculture to you. I will do that right away, so I'll not forget again. Okay. The agriculture slides, I'll post them to the platform. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So we are done for today. Bye for now. Bye.